Today, we are diving deep into the hidden world of strategic espionage. And I'm not talking about the Hollywood stuff with laser pens and exploding cars. No, this is about the quiet, subtle, and frankly, much more powerful art of gathering information to get a truly unbeatable advantage.
So let's start with a puzzle. Imagine you're the best art dealer on the planet, but you've got this one huge problem. Your absolute #1 target, a guy with unimaginable wealth, wants nothing to do with you. He won't even meet you. So how do you not only get in the door, but become his go-to guy?
Well, the man in this story was Andrew Mellon. You got to picture him, a very stiff, quiet, no-nonsense industrialist. He'd heard all about this famously talkative and flamboyant art dealer, Joseph Devine, and he was just not interested. In fact, he made it crystal clear he had zero desire to ever meet the guy.
But Devine? He was completely unfazed by this. He actually made this incredibly bold, almost arrogant promise to his friends. He said, "Not only will Mellon buy from me, but he will buy only from me." This wasn't just about making a sale, you see. This was about total conquest. A pretty audacious claim, right?
So how in the world did he plan to do it? Well, Devine's plan wasn't really a sales pitch at all. It was more like a masterclass in spying. Let's call it the ultimate art deal.
Okay, so what Devine pulled off was not luck. It was a clinical 4-step operation. First, he infiltrated Mellon's inner circle. How? He secretly put Mellon's own household staff on his payroll. Genius, right? Through them, he learned everything: Mellon's habits, his tastes, even his fears. Armed with all this intel, he engineered what looked like a chance encounter in a London hotel elevator. From there, he managed to accompany Mellon to a museum, and that's where he just dazzled him, showing off this seemingly supernatural knowledge of the exact kind of art Mellon absolutely loved.
And the result? Mellon was totally blown away. He was completely charmed. From that day on, he didn't just buy from Devine. He became his absolute best, most generous client for life. Devine had achieved his impossible goal, not through being a good salesman, but through brilliant espionage.
Now, Devine's story is incredible, for sure. But it's not just a story. It's a perfect example of a universal principle of power. Let's call it the spy's core principle.
And the principle is this: pose as a friend, work as a spy. What does that mean? It means that every single social encounter, a casual chat, a dinner party, whatever, is an opportunity. It's a chance to probe, to listen, and to gather valuable information that will always, always keep you one step ahead of everyone else.
You see, this is what totally baffled Devine's rivals. He seemed to know everything before they did. It was like he could read minds. When you have this kind of intelligence, you appear clairvoyant. Your competition has no earthly idea where your knowledge is coming from. And here's the kicker: what they cannot see, they cannot fight.
And believe me, this is not some modern business school trick. This is ancient wisdom. Over 2,000 years ago, the legendary general Sun Tzu wrote about it in The Art of War. He said that victory comes from one thing: foreknowledge. And that foreknowledge isn't magic. He was very clear. It has to be obtained from spies.
So Devine's method of using paid informants, yeah, it was super effective. But it's not the only way to do it. There are other tools in the spy's toolkit, some of them even more advanced.
Okay, so you basically have two main paths. You can go the Devine route and spy through other people, using paid informants. It's simpler, sure, but it's also risky. I mean, what if your spies are idiots? Or worse, what if they betray you? The other path is the one mastered by the great French diplomat Talleyrand. You spy for yourself. Now, this takes way more skill and subtlety, but it gives you total control.
So what was Talleyrand's secret? He was an absolute master of conversation. He would just fade into the background, suppress his own personality, and get other people to talk endlessly about themselves. And you know what? People love to do that. And in doing so, they'd reveal all their plans, their weaknesses, everything. He'd even do things like blurt out a fake secret just to see how people reacted, or use a friendly party game to gently pry information out of them. It was an art form.
But these techniques, they can get even more manipulative. There's a trick called fake sincerity. You offer up a false confession of your own, something harmless, to make the other person feel safe enough to give you a real one. Or, if you want to get more aggressive, there's strategic contradiction. You intentionally annoy someone, push their buttons, just to get them emotional enough that they lose control and tell you what they really think. But look, spying isn't just about learning secrets. It's also about predicting the future. It's about figuring people out.
And you can do that by laying little traps, small tests to reveal a person's true character, their loyalty, their honesty, before you ever put your real trust in them.
There's a brilliant example from a 7th century Persian king, Chosroes. If he saw two of his courtiers were really friendly, he'd pull one of them aside, let's call him courtier A. He'd tell A a fake secret, that his friend, courtier B, was a traitor. Then Chosroes would demand total silence. After that, all he had to do was watch. If courtier B acted normally in the following days, he knew courtier A was trustworthy and could keep a secret. But if B suddenly got cold and distant, well, Chosroes knew the secret was out, and A was not to be trusted. Simple, but so effective.
Okay, but you gotta remember, this is absolutely a two-way street. While you're out there trying to gather information, you can bet other people are trying to do the exact same thing to you, which means you need a defense. You need what Winston Churchill famously called a bodyguard of lies.
And nobody framed this better than Churchill himself. He said, "Truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies." Now, this isn't about being dishonest for the sake of it. No, this is about strategically using disinformation to protect what's most important.
And to really understand the stakes here, let's go to World War II. German V-1 flying bombs are terrorizing London. This threat was constant, it was devastating, and it killed over 5,000 people. The city was under siege. But then, Allied intelligence started to notice something weird. The bombs, which were aimed at crucial targets like Tower Bridge and Piccadilly Circus, they were consistently missing. Not by a little, but by a lot. They kept falling short, landing in the less populated suburbs. The question was why? How was the famously precise German engineering failing this badly?
Well, it wasn't an engineering problem at all. It was an absolute masterpiece of counterespionage. See, the Germans were relying on reports from their spies in England to tell them where the bombs were landing so they could adjust their aim. But the Germans didn't know was that British intelligence had captured every single one of those spies and turned them into double agents. So these agents were feeding back subtly deceptive information. They were telling the Germans their bombs were overshooting the targets. And so the Germans would correct their aim, again and again, pushing their bombs further and further away from the heart of the city, saving countless lives.
And that, right there, is the ultimate power of information. It's like having a third eye. It gives you a kind of omniscience, the ability to see further than other people, and to see deeper into what they're really thinking and planning.
Because in the end, the principle is as true now as it was for ancient kings or wartime generals. What you cannot see, you cannot fight. Which really just leaves one last question. What can you see?